Okay. This is my final attempt at telling this entire story. I told this story once today, maybe twice. Already. I actually got a tattoo today, in catharsis to end the chapter, to end this chapter of my life completely. It was kind of the last puzzle piece. Well, it's not really now because I gotta go get it finished now, but this is still the anniversary of this terribly, um, I wouldn't say tragic, but this terribly fucked up event that, changed my life for a very long time. The anniversary of Crystalia sexually assaulting me and luring me and manipulating me into it. So, strap in. It is a very long story. I'm going to try to be as concise as I can, but I've tried to write this down a million times. It's just easier to just tell it. So this entire saga began back in 2013, 2014. And just a disclaimer, I've never told this full story publicly. The only people who know it are people who are closest to me. I've been offered money for this story. I've been offered all kinds of things. Blue check marks, offering, But I wanted to tell it on my own terms, in my own words. I thought like one day maybe I could help like an independent person by telling it on their platform because so many people have asked for it, but I'm sure we're past the point where anybody cares, hopefully, and this is purely just for my own, catharsis. So the saga, yes, began in 2013, 2014. I knew who Chris D'Elia was because I saw him on the show Whitney, because I really enjoyed Whitney Cummings. And I saw him on the Justin Bieber roast. And then one day I saw him on Vine or Instagram. I don't remember. I think it was maybe the real dancing trend he started with Flo Rida. Was when I found him on social media. And he used to have like all these calls to action to add him on Snapchat. And so, a young 20-something girl, why would I, I'll add this comedian to my Snapchat. So I added him, sent him a pic, like, selfie, I'm cute. Hello, I'm cute. And he responded right away. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, oh, celebrity, he's talking to me. Who cares? So he responded to me right away, and then we chatted and flirted for a while. Just back and forth. I would send him cute pics, he'd send me cute pics, and then one night, things got a little spicy. He asked me for some titty pics, and at the time, I was just starting to kind of be very provocative online, so I sent him some titty pics. Whatever. Because I have no shame, and people always want to attach shame to these things, and it's like, who cares? Like, everybody does this. If you're gonna take this and use it against me, go ahead. But we've all been there. Not all of us, but a lot of us. So, sent him these city pics, and then he responded with, show me pink. And, like, I assumed, it took me a while to respond to that one, because I assumed he meant, like, pussy, and so I just responded and was like, if you mean this, I don't send pictures of that. That's for in person only. Like, I've never taken pictures of that. So then he ghosted me. So yeah, I wouldn't send him pictures of my vagina, and he ghosted me. So that was that. Fast forward few years, and I'm on Twitter, and I find his podcast. I'm like, hey, I remember thinking this guy was funny. I'm going to check out his podcast. I was, just doing shit and needed something to listen to. So put on the podcast. I really liked it. I can never deny the fact that he was my favorite comedian of all time. Like, he was definitely, I thought he was funny. And I know that's silly because a lot of people who appreciate really good comedy do not like him. They think he's childish and silly and immature and whatever, but I'm immature and I love silly things. And so his silliness spoke to me in a way that I was just like, this guy's the shit. This guy is it. Like, he deserves to be a star, is what I felt. And so I started listening to the podcast intently, and for people who never listened to his podcast, there's some very main themes on every episode in the past. Like, I don't know how he does it anymore. I'm sure he's changed his platform because of all the cancellation, but I know he still does it, but like I don't know what it's about. But back then, when I was listening to it, and I was an avid listener, it was all about, babies, and we're the babies. You're the babies. I'm the daddy. This is a cult. Like, this podcast is a cult for real. He would say all the time, for real. This is a real cult. This podcast is a cult. We're gonna have a log cabin in the woods one day. We're all gonna be in a log cabin in the woods, all fucking and sucking each other. Like, this was the theme. And now it was funny because it's funny when you think it's not true. It's funny when you think it's a joke. Yeah, when it's not a joke, it's not so funny. It's very Nixium, right? So he's trying to start a cult, and I'm into it for some reason. Like, I thought it was funny, right? And so, as time went on, it became like more and more like part of the podcast, part of the thing, and it became like this very, like, anybody who listened to it, it was all just a big inside joke. We were all just like a family of like people who just got these stupid jokes, and it was wonderful. Like, it really was a loving time. Like, I really did enjoy a lot of the people that I met through it, just and the creativity it brought out of people. Like, I can't deny that, like, his silly comedy made for a lot of social media content that we all created, like videos, memes, movies, like fucking hilarious trailers and adaptations of things that were just like off the wall. Like, the most creative and talented people were following this guy's podcast, and it was just so cool to be like a part of that whole community. And so it became a big part of my life. Like, all I ever did and wanted to do, I was like, telling everybody, like, and so at one point he came out with, listen, if you go above and beyond by spreading the word of the podcast, you will get a pin. Like, you'll get this elder pin. And you'll become an elder. And then you're no longer a baby. You graduate to elder once you went above and beyond for the podcast, for daddy, right? That was the whole thing. So of course, all of us are going above and beyond. A lot of us. I was going live on Instagram and listening to the podcast just with random people who followed me, and I turned on probably at least 200 people I know for sure. Turned them on to that fucking podcast, regrettably. And turned them on to his comedy. Like, a lot of people just didn't like him, and I made them like him by being annoying and being like, listen to this podcast. So ridiculous. And this is why it says in the Bible to worship no man. By the way, don't worship celebrities, because even if you listen to their podcast every week and think you fucking like know them, they might end up being complete psychopaths. So yeah, we're all listening to the podcast. It's awesome. And then I decided there was this inside joke about Shania Twain, and so I made this costume and wore this costume to a convention. And then a professional photographer, Brittany Quinn, actually, took a photo of me at a booth I was working at with my costume. And it had the congratulation, it had his face on it, saying, yeah, it does. Because the whole joke was Shania Twain, that don't impress me much. And he's like, yeah, it does. And so Brittany tweeted this tweet, and I tweeted it at him or something, and then he replied to it publicly and said, like, what's going on here? And I said, like, this is what's going on. Like, I made this costume in the name of the podcast, and I I wore it around a convention telling people to listen to this podcast when they would ask me about my silly costume. And he was like, excuse me, he was like, that's really cool. obviously. Like, he thought it was dope. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. And so, yeah, so the costume, and then within seconds of him tweeting me, he snapped me privately on Snapchat and was like, hey, where do you live? And like, I had told him before where I lived, but he like must have forgot. And then I told him, and within a week, he announced a show in North Battleford, Saskatchewan. A city with less than 15, a city with less than 15,000 people. This thriving comedian at the peak of his career booked a show in North Battleford, Saskatchewan. And so, as soon as he announced that, like, so literally asked me where I live, announces the show, I say, oh my gosh, like, you're coming to, like, me. And he was like, yeah, like, are you gonna come? And I was like, oh yeah, for sure, I'll buy tickets as soon as they come out. Like, and I know I said, like, cause I said, like, I'll buy tickets as soon as they come out, like, thinking, like, is he gonna offer me free tickets? Like, he should. I've been doing hella work for this podcast, I thought. He didn't. Whatever, I bought them. Or no, I got them for Christmas. How funny is that? I got them for Christmas. And then I also bought myself a ticket to the Calgary show as well, because he was definitely making it seem like he wanted to see me. So when I was like, oh my gosh, you're coming to me, and he's like, yeah, like, am I gonna see you? And I said, absolutely. Oh, and this is another very, very fucking weird thing. So a long time ago, the first time that we had started chatting, he had asked me if I was gonna come to his show, and I just said yes. But I wasn't planning on it at all, though, but I said yes. And then he was like, hey, did you come to the show? And I went, oh, no, sorry, it's my mom's birthday. And he sent me a mad face. That was before he ghosted me for not sending him my vagina, but I think. But yeah, he was like, sent me a mad face because I didn't go to a show, because I said I was going to go to a show and then I didn't. And then when he booked his next show to come see me, like specifically in North Battleford, the show date was the same, was my mom's birthday again. And like, I have a hard time wrapping my head around the psychoticness that would have to go along with that being like intentional. But I wonder sometimes. Anyways, so he's like messaging me and like talking to me a little bit more and like asking me like, you're gonna be there, right? You're gonna be there? And I'm like, yeah, I'm really going, because like at this point I'm like obsessed, right? I'm not just a casual fan as I was in the past. I'm like obsessed with the podcast, so like I'm gonna go to the show. So basically, one day he asked me, like, he's really again like just asked me, are you coming to the show? And I was like, yeah, like stop, like, do you forget? Are you not getting my responses? Like, what the fuck? And he asked me, are you going to do everything I tell you to do? And I'm like, and I just said, of course, haha. Like, yeah, for sure, haha. Or I think I said like, yes, daddy, haha. Like, because it was like in my mind, I didn't know who in my mind, he's this silly fucking goofball. And he's like, maybe he's this like scared celebrity. Like at the time, he's like this huge celebrity to me. And like, which is hilarious, because like even now, like a lot of people don't fucking know who this guy is. They just don't. Like, they just don't fucking know. And so the fact that I thought he was that famous, that he's like covering all these bases and being cryptic with me on Snapchat to like, because of some other ulterior reason, is silly. And I know that now. But anyways, he's being whatever. And they started like asking me like, are you gonna do this and that, and like kind of being a little bit sexual. And so I'm just kind of being like, oh, maybe, haha, maybe, haha, maybe, haha, oh yeah, haha, you know, because like, you know, I haven't met you yet. Like, yeah, do I like you? Do I love your show? Yeah, but like, and I just want to also say that I've been like in rooms and like I've been to conventions and places with celebrities and famous people before. Like, I have literally shared a bed with a man from Hollywood with a pillow wall in the middle of the bed that he didn't cross, not once. No disrespect to me. Asked me if I needed to use the bathroom before he went to the bathroom kind of guy. Like, okay, so it's not my first rodeo with someone famous, so the fact that people will say, like, well, what did you expect? Like, no, not everybody is a disrespectful piece of shit predator. Like, I don't like to say words. I shouldn't be saying mean words like that. I don't like those words. Not everybody is that disrespectful, basically. Like, people have respect for other people, generally. And so I was not prepared for the evil that this man was, So anyways, the 2 weeks before, like, the show, he wouldn't really talk to me. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I never really saw it as disrespect. I just saw it as, like, he is literally famous and he's busy. Like, he doesn't have time for little old me. It's cool enough he's coming to North Battleford. I don't need to bother him. It was, like, my thought process. So, the night before the show in North Battleford, I had just gone off work and I was at the gym. And he texted me and was like, where are you? And I said, oh, I'm just at the gym. Where are you? And he's like, I'm here. And I was like, oh, awesome. Like, where? Like, and he was like, this hotel. And I was like, oh, cool. Okay. He's like, when can you be here? Or how soon he said, how soon can you be here? I said, well, I have to, I'm in Lloydminster, so I have to drive, the hour. And he said, all right, like, see you then. And so okay, so I left the gym, went home, showered quick, got all my stuff together, and I, ripped her up to North Battleford. I brought, like, drawings and a marketing plan and, like, all this crazy shit. Like, I had this whole strategy. It doesn't fucking matter, obviously, anymore, but, like, and so I go there. I get to the hotel, Gold Eagle Casino Hotel. It was room 418. I go up there, I knock on the door, and he answers the door. And, like, this isn't even me, like, trying to be, like, shady after the fact and, like, throw shade or whatever. This isn't me just being mean, but, like, I specifically remember very vividly that when I first laid eyes on him in person, that close, I was like, whoa. Like, he has the weirdest, snakiest body of all time. Like, it's how, it's, you don't see people like that in Canada, I guess. And it's funny because people often describe Snoop Dogg the same way, like, just a tall, like, snaky figure. But so, like, when I laid eyes on him, it was like, okay, like, I was a lot less attracted to him immediately. So I was like, okay, this is business only. You know what I mean? But anyway, so he hugged me right away. And I went kind of to the left of myself a little bit, and there's, like, a table and a mirror, and I just wanted to put my stuff down. And before I could even, like, let go of my purse, he had his arm around me and was walking me over to this couch. And he, like, turned around in front of me and, like, placed me in the corner of this couch. So, like, I'm in the corner of the couch and he sits on the other side of me. I have nowhere to go and he has the whole rest of the couch. So, like, very, intentional placing, I feel. So we, like, the minute he, like, sits me down and sits me down, like, he basically places me and then sits down with me, and he starts, like, rubbing his hands, like, all over my body. Like, before, we haven't even really said hello. Like, we hugged at the door, yes, and then it was just, like, hands all over my body, and I'm literally like, oh, this is so crazy, so crazy that I'm here, oh my god. He's like, don't be nervous, like, don't be nervous. He's just fucking, like, going for it on me. I'm like, grabs my hand and puts it on him, on his dick. And I just remember being like, oh, the rumors are true. Like, and he was like, huh? Like, I remember him being like, what? And I was like, the rumors, they're true. Like, I didn't know what to fucking say. Like, I wasn't ready for this encounter. I really wasn't. And so it's like, it was just so bizarre. And, like, every time I even think about it and talk about it, I'm like, how how did this happen? And so, yeah, he's like, I say what I say, and then he's kind of like, huh? And he like backs up. He like backed up a little bit, because he like was like all right here and like just like handsing me, right? And it was like, this isn't hot. Like, I'm not like, I don't even know you. Like, whatever. So he's doing that, and I'm just kind of like laughing, so uncomfortable, and like I'm laughing knowing that he's said on his podcast that he hates when people laugh in sexual moments. And so like I'm literally laughing, like ha 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 ha, you know, just trying to like, the fuck is going on? It's so uncomfortable. So yeah, so kind of goes back, looks at me, and then just goes, get on your knees. And so I'm like, huh? Like, I'm just kind of like lost, right? So I'm like, okay. So I go and I kneel down, and as I'm kneeling down, I realize he's like pulling down his pants. And before I can even like look up from kneeling down, it's like out. Like, it's out. Okay. And so I kind of was like, oh, like I kind of like, you know, looked away and did this and that. And then the worst part happened, in my opinion. Just had to plug in my phone because it's going to die. So then, yeah, I'm kind of like looking away and like, I'm like on my knees, but like trying to think, like, what do I do? Like, what do I do next? Like, I don't want to offend him, right? Like, I don't want to offend him. He's my fucking hero. And I like have been doing like worshiping him for months, like listening to his podcast every day, listening to him. Oh, I think I skipped the part where he made me a fucking elder. He made me an elder of his cult on the episode called Ragnarok. He names me in the episode. And yeah, so he named me as the elder right after I had done the cosplay. And then all within like 2 weeks of that was when he announced the show in North Battleford. So for me, it was like, man, like this guy publicly named me on his podcast and made me an elder. He mailed me a pin and, you know, mailed me a pin and a certificate, and like he's retweeted my tweets that I've made. Like he's safe. Like he seems like a safe person to be alone with because of his public ties to me. Well, he's a very good manipulator. So yeah, I'm like on my knees and I'm kind of trying to look away, like, what do I do? And then he like literally just grabs both sides of my face and goes, look at me. And like I'm kind of like, you know, like looking everywhere but I am. And he goes, look at me in my eyes. And I'm like, oh. So I look at him in his fucking beady, you know, lifeless void eyes. And he just goes, if you do what I say, everything's going to be all right. Like, if you just do what I say. And so I just kind of like, okay. Like this, Like, what the fuck do you do at that moment? Like now, I'm like, 100 million things I should have done. Punched him, hit him, kicked him, bit his fucking dick off. Like, anything. But in that moment, it was just like, you know, like all these things are going through my mind. Like, I don't want to offend my fucking hero. Why is he doing this? Maybe he just wants to get this out of the way. Like, I don't fucking know. Like, it just made no sense. And I couldn't process it as fast as he was doing it. You know, I had been raped before, but it was much more, you know, violent and forceful. This was just like literally masterful coercion. And coercive rape is rape. Like, you know, I was actually listening to I was watching a stand-up comedian. He has a really funny bit about how like Western women's idea of Me Too is a lot different than a Indian woman's version of Me Too. And I can completely acknowledge that. But at the same time, I do believe that what happened to me was very traumatic. Like it just happened all so fast. And so anyway, so then he says this to me, and then I do, like, we didn't no sex, just oral. And like he's very like, mean about it, like do it this way, and like it was just like the creepiest, cringiest fucking, oh my god, like look, like I'm so proud of myself for how much I've healed, because I used to not be able to talk about this without crying. My eyes are watering, but I'm not crying, and I'm winning because of that. So anyways, moving on. I'm sorry this is slow, and I know it's painful, but this is just how it is. Yeah, so I like it finishes, and he kind of just like lays over in fetal position and like pretends to go to sleep. Awkward. And I'm just like sitting there like, I did not want to do that. What do I do next? And so I get up and go to the bathroom, and he, like, before I could even like get in there to turn the tap on, he was right behind me, and I looked up in the mirror and he's right behind me, like just on his phone texting and like looking up at me so fucking creepily, like laughing at his phone and then looking up at me, and then laughing at his phone and then looking up at me. Like, it was so fucking weird. And then later you'll find out what I think he was doing on his phone, but we gotta save that for the later part of the story. So he like wouldn't let me be in the bathroom by myself, and so I just kind of like, I was like, it was weird. Like, you know when you like, when something so crazy happens that you're just kind of in shock that you don't even really cry, you're just kind of like, you know, like you're just like, what the fuck? Like your brain is just like processing. Like I just was like, what the fuck just happened? And is it my fault? Like, did I deserve it? Did I ask for this? Like, I came here. Like, what the fuck did I do this for? Like, this is horrible. Should I say something to him? What should I do? Should I just go? Like, what the fuck? So I finished cleaning up. I go and sit on the couch again, and I'm just kind of sitting there. Like, I'm just sitting there, and he's just kind of pacing, and he's on his phone, and I'm just kind of waiting for him to, like, acknowledge me again. And he just kind of looks up from his phone and goes, "So where are you going now?" And I was like, oh, I guess I'll go to my dad's house, or maybe I'll stay at my mom's, or fucking like, yeah. So I get up and, you know, leave. And that was it. Like, that's it. Like, I drove around for an hour and like just cried, and then I went to my mom's, and I was just like, she's like, what are you doing in town? And I was like, oh, I was just, you know, hanging out with Crystalia. And she's like, oh? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, and I was like, oh, nothing, like nothing to say. Like, literally I had nothing to say. And she kept like being like what do you, like, don't you have any story? Like, no, I don't. Like, I don't. And then I think I tried to play it cool, like, yeah, he wanted to meet me because I do work for the podcast, like, you know. Yeah. Cause yeah. And so the next night the show happens, and we go, and he, near the end of his set, he looks directly at me. I was pretty close to the stage at a table. He looks directly at me, and he tells this really disrespectful joke about how comedy is more important than women. And I was like, he's looking at me. Like, in my mind, I was like, he's looking at me. No, he's not. Why would he fucking look at me? That's ridiculous. And it wasn't until we left the show that my friend that I was with was like, oh my God, he was looking directly at you when he was making that joke. Isn't that crazy? And I was kind of like, yeah, like, yeah, it is pretty crazy. Mind you, I told this friend, like, what I was going to do and everything like that. And I told her that I did it, but, you know, I was too ashamed to, like, you know, like, I don't know. It's like, yeah, people warn you about being used and warn you about blah, 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 but, like, nobody warns you that you're gonna be forced to do it, you know? That never crossed my mind. It never crossed my mind. Like, this famous person would not do this to me. Because if he did, I would tell everybody. And it's funny because I never wanted to be the one that ruined his career. I never wanted to be the one that, you know. And so the next day I had a ticket to his other show. in Calgary, so I drove to Calgary. So the night before, I said, like, hey, like, after the show, I said, hey, what are you up to now? Do you have time to chat? Do you want to chat? Like, I wanted to talk to him. I wanted to just, like, be like, I really don't think that's fair what you just did to me, because I didn't really understand it. I didn't really realize how fucking wrong it was, because it just seemed, again, like, it felt like it was my fault. It felt like I brought it on myself. Like, all these, like, toxic, negative thoughts were coming in my mind, when, in fact, I did not do it to myself. I should not have been disrespected that way. I should not have been, like, when I showed visible discomfort, I should have been allowed to leave or collect myself, not grabbed by the face and told everything's going to be okay. Right? Like, we can agree on that, I hope. So yeah, I texted him and was like, can we talk? Hey, what are you doing? Like, whatever. Nothing. But he messaged me and was like, how was the show? And I was like, it was great, of course. It was so funny. Hey, like, what are you up to now? Nothing. Just nothing. And so then the next day, I went to Calgary. I got to Calgary early in the afternoon because I just went straight there because I was like, I was struggling with some things in my brain, like trying to process everything. And I went to my hotel room because it was vacant already. So I got to check in quite early, and I went into the shower. They didn't have a bathtub, unfortunately, because one of the first things I love to do in a hotel room by myself is just take a bath. But they didn't have a bath, so I got in the shower and I fucking sobbed and I wailed and I just went, why? And like, I was just like having a time. I was just releasing. Cleaned myself up, put some makeup on, took full advantage of the hotel room that I booked for myself, and took a ton of photos for my Instagram, of course. And then, about a few hours later, I hear him laugh. Like, I hear Crystal Lee laugh. And I'm like, what the fuck? Oh, weird. Somebody's got to be, like, playing his shit. Everybody's probably here to see him anyway. And then I hear him laugh again and again, and it sounds real. So I'm, like, putting my ear to the walls, like, which room is he in? But then I realize it's literally coming across the hall from me. He's staying in the room across the hall from me. So I panic. And I still, to this day, don't know why I thought that he would know it was me in there. How would he ever know? Like, he couldn't have known. I got there. I did leave to go get some food and some coffee and came back. But I didn't see him, so I don't think he saw me, especially going into that specific room. Like, he didn't know I was in there. But my paranoid heart was like, oh, no. He heard me crying. He's going to know something's really wrong with me, or he's going to think I'm a crazy bitch, So I text him and say, hey, I think you're staying somewhere across the hall from me, because I swear to gosh, I just heard you laugh. Haha. Also, did you hear that crazy sound earlier? It sounded like an animal. I was talking about me. Like, I think I said something like, what was that? Or I don't even know. And so this is so crazy. And so I think that probably panicked him. Hindsight, I don't know. But he just went crazy, LOL. And so then I was like, okay. So then I went down to the casino quite early because I didn't want to run into him in the hallway. I just thought that would be too awkward. So I went down super early to just wait for the show to start. And then as soon as the show started, I watched it, obviously, and as soon as the show was over, I fucking raced up to my hotel room so I could catch him going into his hotel room, because I didn't want to, confront him before his show, because that's just rude. I don't want to throw him off his game, right? Oh, I'm so empathetic. And so I was waiting in the hallway, and then people were, coming up and stuff, and so I was like, well, waiting in the fucking hallway is probably going to be red flag, so maybe I'll wait in my room. So, I go in my room and I just have my ear to the door, just listening for long footsteps. Just waiting for long footsteps and or to hear him or something like that. And also what if he brought a different girl up? Probably in my mind, but I didn't want to be, it's his life. He can do whatever he wants. I just want to talk to him about our fucking situation, because that's what I believe should happen. I didn't believe that I should have had to put any of this on the fucking internet. But when the person who victimizes you just refuses to have a conversation with you, what else do you do? Right? And yeah, so I'm waiting in my hotel room, like waiting for him to come to his hotel room. And I hear him. I open the door. I see him coming. And in my nicest possible voice ever in the whole world, I'm just like, hey, Chris, and before I can even fucking get a sentence out, he like literally refuses to look at me, walks straight by me, and goes into his room and shuts the door. So then I went a little crazy. I did. I message him and say, hey, like, can we chat? Hey. He's not responding. I'm like, this is fucking weird. Maybe he's not getting my messages. So I go to his door and I kind of, hey, Chris, just wanted to let you know that I'm right across the hall if you need anything, and I would just really love to like chat with you, like just trying to fucking coax this motherfucker out to just be like, can we please have a conversation about what just happened? Wouldn't come out. And so I went back into my room, and then he messaged me because I think he was scared that I was not going to stop. Then he messaged me and was like, hey, sorry, I'm just really not feeling well tonight. And I was like, oh. And I said, oh, no problem. Well, if you have time to catch breakfast or have a coffee, I'd still really love to chat with you just for a few minutes. No response. Or actually, I think he even did say, like, yeah, I'll message you in the morning or something. Like, I think he was worried that I was becoming, like, aware of what his game is. But, like, all of this is hindsight, by the way. I didn't think any of this in the moment, likely. But the next morning, when I realized he was just gone, I was like, okay, like, he did this intentionally. Like, I couldn't wrap my head around it. I did not want to accept it. I did not want it to be real. I did not want me to have just fallen for that all. Like, literally makes me an elder, comes to my hometown, and forces me into oral sex by telling me everything is going to be okay when I'm clearly uncomfortable and scared and crying. Like, yeah. So yeah, I drive home, bawling. Just like, what just happened? Like, my fucking hero just disrespected me in the worst possible way. And I'm publicly this person's number one supporter. And I'm publicly, you know what I mean? Like, I felt so trapped. I didn't want to be the one to ruin his career. I still had a really hard time accepting what he did. And so I went pretty bonkers for a while. Like there's no lie there. I 100%, like, because I realized he was not going to chat with me, and because he just wasn't going to. And so I felt like I needed to play a game. So I decided, instead of, because I really wanted to see him, I really wanted to just be face to face with him, to fucking either scream at him, punch him, trash his, like, I wanted to, like, get into another one of his hotel rooms just to trash it, cause a scene or do something. Like, that's how I deal with things, is like fucking with reality. I'm not somebody who just can post something on Facebook and walk away for the rest of my life, like, especially if it's something so personal to me. Like, I needed to solve this with the person it happened with. And yeah, so for the next while, instead of writing him off completely, like, I felt like I couldn't just sink away, it would be too noticeable. I decided I would lean in. And so I started doing more for the podcast. And that's when I met my amazing friend, who really helped me through it and has no idea how, but she just did. So I made a new friend, and we were making crazy shit, talking crazy shit. Like, literally, our DMs back and forth were like, this loser really thinks he's this funny. Oh my God, let's make this meme. Like, we were talking, like, everybody else was fanboying over him, and we were like talking mad shit and just being like, fuck this guy, let's make this meme, like let's give him a vagina and like all this crazy. I never told her what happened until way later, but it was just so nice to have someone to talk to, even though she doesn't really know. Like, she didn't know me from a hole in the wall. As far as she knew, I could be a fake catfish, but we just chatted like every day for so long. And then I actually ended up going to LA to see her, but one of my real intentions was to go to the Comedy Store to confront him. He wasn't there either night, but it was a good opportunity because I talked to a lot of comedians there who had a lot to say about him, and they had no idea. Like, I didn't tell them anything about my association. I told them that I was a huge fan of him and I loved him, and I wanted them to tell me everything about him. Like, it was just so, I was just playing these games. And then I met some of his friends. We went to his show in Vancouver. Again, I tried to bait him. He didn't take it. He was like, he messaged me a couple times, but then stopped right away because I feel like he could sense that I was displeased, but I was still keeping up with supporting the podcast, and I thought that was going to be enough. I guess it wasn't, but, so yeah. And then I met one of his best friends, Zach Don Covio, and that's when we found out that his friend had no idea about like the whole cult following and stuff. Like, he didn't know anything about the podcast, and he didn't know about the babies or the daddy stuff, anything like that. So his best fucking friend doesn't even know what he's talking about or doing on the podcast. I was trying to fish from him whether he knew about me or not, but he definitely didn't. Like, he knew that Chris was promiscuous, but I don't think he knew any details. And so then fast forward to, I went to another one of his shows, and again tried to bait him. He did not take the bait. He actually ended up date raping someone else, who was literally blackout drunk, could barely move, and him and Mike Lenoci took advantage of someone that ended up in one of the victim group chats. So fucked. But yeah, fast forward again, I met Brian Callen, and Brian Callen was kind of my last, Brian Callen was my second last ditch effort to just, like, because I didn't want to be publicly ruin his career. I wanted to get close to someone close to him and explain to them what happened so that they could help me, so that they could, like, I don't know, talk to him, or like, I don't even know what I was wanting to do, but I just wanted someone else to know that knows him, that can like hold him accountable in some way. And again, like, I'm never one for like the law, so like, because fuck the government, but like, this was my way of dealing with things. But then I kind of found out, so Brian Callen ended up being exactly like Chris, just nicer. Like, Brian Callen was in no way forceful or coercive. I went to see Brian Callen with an intent, and what happened. And then so I remember when I told you that Chris D'Elia was on his phone right away after our encounter. Brian Callen also went on his phone right away and was actually reading out loud the group chat text to me. And it was like, he was reading them to me as if I didn't understand what the fuck he was talking about. It was basically just like this big metaphor. He was like there's 3 of them in the group chat: Chris D'Elia, Brian Callen, and someone else I won't name because I don't know if they're a piece of shit personally or not, but I don't necessarily think Brian Callen is a piece of shit. I just think that he's been complicit in one of his best friend's like shitty activities. So yeah, they were literally metaphor talking about what they had just done to girls in this group chat. It's pretty fucking gross. So there's some discovery for you, but yeah. And so after the Brian Callen incident, I realized that, because I really believed that Brian Callen was like a good guy, but then he just kind of was just like, he's just out for girls. So, and then so then I gave up on the revenge mission. I actually went and saw Brennan Schaub after that, but that night my boyfriend was in the hospital. It was a fucking mess, and I think someone drugged me because I got sicker than I've ever gotten, and I only had 1 glass of wine because I was by myself, and when I'm by myself I rarely drink, and if I do, it's like 1 glass. I don't drink at all anymore, but that night there's these two people next to me, this couple. Fuck, I'm gonna run out of memory. God, this is so long. Those two people beside me were giving me the vibe that they were swingers and they wanted me to be part of their crew. They wanted me to be their third. And I had a weird feeling about them. But then, so I either got drugged at the show, or when I was on my way back to my hotel, I walked, and this really nice young man asked me if I had a lighter. And I said, I sure do. And I handed him my lighter. And then I had a little pipe, and I was like, I'm just going to smoke my weed too. And so we sat down and we were chatting, and I like smoked some weed, and he's like, hey, do you mind if I use your pipe? And I was like, oh, sure. So I like gave him my pipe, like not even like thinking. And then he like hit the pipe, and it smelled like weed and it tasted like weed. And then so I hit it too. And then when I was walking into my hotel, we sat there and smoked together right outside the hotel. And so all of a sudden I was like, oh wow, I don't feel good, I should go inside. And so I start to like walk inside, and he like tried to follow me, and then the security guard was like, see with you? And I was like, no. And then the fucking security guard was like, get out, to this random street dude. And the dude was like looking, like I remember looking back and him being like, oh, like he wanted to come with me really bad. Like he's like, where's she going? But I told him like, good night, like goodbye. And he was like trying to get me to like stay with him. And I was like, no. And I barely made it into my hotel room, and I hit the floor. Like, I don't know, like hindsight now, like I was either drugged, roofied, or like that dude was smoking something that I have never smoked before, like shouldn't smoke, or like he maybe laced it. I don't fucking know. But either way, this did some like bad choices. Okay. Anyways, yeah, I went to Brennan's shop with the intention to like be like, again, like, I don't know, help me. But because I just didn't feel like I could talk to him the way that, because when I met Brian Callen walked right up to me and went, Amanda. So I still to this day don't know if he knew who I was because Chris told him, or if like I had tagged him in a couple posts on Instagram, but like, how's somebody gonna remember you that well? Like, I don't know. I'm running out of memory again. So the saga ended. I stopped seeking revenge. After meeting like going to LA, then meeting Brian Callen, and like just I was over it. I was done with it. I lost, my relationship. I moved out of my house and all this stuff. And I had to move on. And so I just quit doing everything for a while. I like left social media for 2 months. And I came back and I released an album, I think. I don't know. I did a bunch of random shit until 2020, June of 2020, when it all came crashing back down. When the news dropped about all the other girls. This is the only part that still gets me emotional. When the news came out about all the other victims, I felt like a piece of shit. Because a lot of the instances happened between 2018 and 2020. And I could have said something. I could have, if I wasn't so focused on getting my own selfish revenge. If I wasn't so focused on my own selfish revenge, I probably, maybe, could have saved a few of them. And that is still hard to deal with. And that is why I am so obsessed with constantly just telling the truth these days and just being exactly who I am all the time. Because the one time I really censored myself, big time, is the time it could have helped a lot of people.
oh well. It is what it is, and I've met a lot of, like, so anyways, so the news dropped, and I didn't even, at that time in June of 2020, I didn't even say that anything had happened to me. I I was too scared, even still at that time. I was scared of him. Like, what can he do to me? Fucking nothing. And that's why I'm so comfortable just doing this. 'Cause fuck him. Yeah. Why is that one eye look so red? Just give me 1 second. Okay, it's not. Whatever. It's not gonna get much better. Yeah, so I was too afraid to come out at that time. I just didn't want to be that girl. I just didn't want to be. I didn't want to be the girl. I didn't want to be known as one of those girls that got sexually assaulted, right? I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for that. And then, yeah, but I fucking was loud about it. Like, I was like, fuck that loser, and like, all these girls deserve justice, and like, I was like advocating for them, but I was not about to be like, me too. And that's so sad, because that's what I like stood for at the time. And I was a coward. Because I was trying to win a fucking Maxim CoverGirl contest or some shit. Like, how fucked. I hate old me. I really do. Sometimes. But look at who me is now. Yay. Love you. Yeah, so anyway, then February of 2021. Yeah, 2021. Pandemic round 2. Year 2. Is when I finally came out and was like, I came out and just like made a video and just was like, fuck you, Crystalia, you sexually assaulted me. But I didn't say how or why, and I didn't tell my story. People were really mean and whatever, and then like I said, I was waiting for the right time. I wanted to tell my story to someone I respected, or to someone that deserved to hear it, not just some fucking person who I didn't know, who was going to take advantage of me for, views or something stupid. So yeah. So February 2021, I kind of came out with it, and then I wrote the CDE song and Klesa Mara. And the Klesa Mara is an embodiment of unskilled emotions, and so I feel like releasing the Klesa Mara of me, releasing my Klesa Mara, it was like letting it go, like letting it not bother me anymore. And like, it's true, the assault itself does not faze me at all. Like, it's just gross, but the fact that I could have, I could have warned a lot of people and blew the whistle a lot sooner will probably haunt me for a long time. Oh well.
So as if this wasn't long enough already, I realized that I missed something and I want it to be in here because I don't want to have to add to this. But a year or so later, so what happened in February, and then a year later, in like January the next year, after I was in LA, like a few months after I was in LA, and I was kind of being like sneaky about things and still like, holding up the baby elder persona, Crystalia's girlfriend posted a picture right around New Year's Eve, and the caption to this picture said, this group, like it was a whole bunch of Kristen Taylor's friends and Crystalia, and the caption read, "This group is going a lot of places, but one of those places will never be North Battleford." Now, North Battleford, like, I Googled North Battleford. There's only one North Battleford in the world. It wasn't in the news for any reason at the time. There was no reason for this girl from LA to be throwing shade to some city, small town, or whatever. And so, as you can imagine, I was like it seemed like a dig or something, or like somebody pointed out later to me that maybe he was trying to scare me. I don't know what the fuck that was about, but I just wanted to say that was a thing. And I always wanted to reach out to her. I actually recorded a podcast about it when I was doing the Thoughtful podcast. I don't do that podcast anymore. I have a different one with my best friend, but yeah, it was just like it didn't make any sense. And I showed it to a couple people, and they were even like, "What the fuck? Like this is weird. Like it's weird, right? It didn't make a lot of sense." So yeah, I just wanted to throw that in here as an afterthought after watching it. It's so long. I'm sorry, you guys, and I'm trying to cut out the fat, but it's hard, and it really disrupts the flow if I cut out a lot of the ahs, and I'm cutting out a lot of the longer pauses where I'm kind of collecting myself. But now I'm rambling.
So, as someone, I don't remember who they said it, but who they were, but that's the end of that chapter. I'm closing the book on this one, guys. I'm closing the book. It does not serve a purpose in my life anymore. And now that I got this super sweet tattoo cover up, I don't even know if I covered the tattoo in this whole story, but if I didn't, I got it a month after it happened, and the tattoo, I'm not afraid to show it anymore because it's been amended, and it serves a new purpose, and it allows the catharsis to be complete, and yeah, we move on, only up from here. And I just wish everyone, every single victim involved, I wish them the most peace in their hearts, and even to the perpetrator of the crimes, I am praying for you and your family. I love everyone, and have a great rest of your forever. Love you. Freedom!